The public sector will save the economy. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian Heiser here and welcome to another episode of Heiser Says. Got my Stein in hand and I thought we'd have a look at this article because all my concerns about the economy, everyone's concerns really about the economy, we don't need to worry, guys. It's all going to be good because the public sector is going to save us all. The government is going to just employ everyone and it'll be good. It'll be good. We can trust the government. It'll all be fine. Now, the cynic in me, the public sector, in my opinion, should be reflective of the private sector. The private sector is really the basis for all of the public sector's revenue, one way or another. So if this is out of whack with the other part of the economy, the private sector, that's when I get worried. And politicians saying it's all good, because employment is increasing in the public sector, worries me, really does. To me, I just think, oh great, you're going to be spending future generations' money or racking out debt. We'll see. The message from those managing the economy, managing the economy, how can you hope to manage an emergent system? A complex emergent system with multiple interactions that you probably couldn't even all measure simultaneously enough. But forget it. I'm thinking too much. I'm doing it wrong. Have a coffee. So the message from those managing the economy could not be more clear. Jobs are being created and the economy is strong. Okay. When we come to government, unemployment was at 5.7%. Treasurer Josh Frydenberg told the ABC last month. Today it's at 5.2%. We've created 1.3 million new jobs. Okay, Josh. I question that 5.2%. I'd suggest you look at the Roy Morgan as a methodology and compare and contrast it to the ABS. But that's the problem with our political system. What's more important is this soundbite, this little quote. That's the most important thing for him, for his job, sadly. For all the good intentions you come in, that's what you want, because that will persuade people, it'll breed confidence, and I see why they're doing it. Maybe I'm just too cynical. At a media photo opportunity with Mr. Frydenberg a couple of weeks ago, Reserve Bank Governor Philip Lowe agreed the economy was solid. And you've just done 2 interest rate cuts, the lowest in the history of our nation, and you're saying the economy is solid. Those are sending mixed messages, mate. You're sending different messages to the market. I agree 100% with the Treasurer that the Australian economy is growing and the fundamentals are strong. Are they? Well, how are the fundamentals strong? Wage growth has stagnated. Our per capita GDP is in decline. Our population has increased significantly, by 25% since 2000. Our quality of life is going down. Our water supply has barely increased, 1.8% in that same time period. Maybe we're hitting at capacity. I know we've got future projects planned. Still, you think that population growth may have artificially overheated certain sectors of our economy? Maybe. However, these comments are at odds with what some of the big banks' consumer and business surveys suggest about the current state of the economy. Yep, let's bring up our good old consumer confidence chart, and it's tracking down for business and consumers. Okay, people are less confident, which is understandable. They sure as hell can do better. The fiscal policy and monetary policy will help, an AB chief economist Alan Oster told PM. Whether it will turn around the consumer big time, that's a different issue. I'd put money that it won't. I'd happily bet a carton on that, probably a carton of 4X, not a carton of imported German beer, but still, 4X ain't too bad. You can get a taste for it, guys. You can get a taste for it. Although I do love Erdinger. The long-running Westpac Melbourne Institute Consumer Survey found sentiment fell 4.1% in July to a level below 100 points, suggesting shoppers are downright pessimistic, despite 2 interest rate cuts over the 2 months. Well, interest rate cuts at this extreme levels, will they have a negative effect on the economy due to just concern in the media? Maybe he should have delayed it 1 month after another. I don't know. Businesses are not trading strongly either. Well, yeah, our retail sector's in a recession. We're hearing all the time about big chains going under. You know, David Jones firing people, Big W closing stores. Yeah, 2 videos I just did about that a few days ago. The Commonwealth Bank's June business sales indicator, a broad measure of economic-wide spending, was broadly flat in trend terms in June, the weakest monthly growth rate since February 2017. And for the first time since 2014, NAB's quarterly business survey showed conditions are now below average. Yeah, the economy's strong. The economy's strong. You weren't saying that in your speeches there, Philip. You weren't saying strong there. You're using different terms. Adequate, weren't you? They're very unusual. That's very unusual, Mr. Oster said. If you go back and look at over the last number of years, you'd see that it only occurred during the GFC. It occurred a little bit around the time of 2000, which was a global recession, although Australia dodged it. I don't know if we dodged it. I think we just delayed it. Delayed it. And you see it big time in the last recession in the late 80s and early 90s. I think we're definitely headed for a strong recession. I think our economy needs it. It needs it going forward. JP Morgan's chief economist, Sally Auld, agrees with Mr. Oster about the current state of the economy. I think what it does show you is the underlying resilience of the economy feels pretty soft, she said. Public sector accounts for jobs growth. This terrifies me. This terrifies me. No disrespect to anyone who has a public sector job, but we need the growth to come in the private sector, and then the government should be responding after there's demand for their services. So either this is pork barreling, or the government creating jobs for the sake of jobs, or it's a response that's probably too late to the market. Or maybe it's public sector growth. I haven't read this. Maybe it will say health, other things that are responding to the significant population growth in the last 20 years. So why is there such a big gap between what the government and the Reserve Bank are saying about the economy and the reality felt by businesses and shoppers as expressed in these surveys? The state of the job market goes a long way to explain what is going on. The government is correct in saying it is creating a record amount of jobs, but population growth and workforce participation are also strong, meaning that jobs are needed to soak up the extra people looking for work. Well, that's also an interesting thing, where yesterday I looked at the simple graph here about the supply and demand for labor. And if labor demand goes up, wages go up. But also if labor supply goes up, if you've got more of a labor supply, more people I can't draw on this bloody program, more people, that will also drive down the wage equilibrium. Here, do you think increasing our population in Australia by 25% in the last 2 decades may be the reason why wage growth hasn't occurred? I'm just putting it out there. There's a simple little chart here. And because we've got, unemployment, more and more people are going to, well, it's questionable how they judge the unemployment rate, but more and more people are doing gig economies. How many people in the gig economy are working below that minimum wage? Just have a look at that. You'd be surprised. So, back to this. Moreover, it mainly is not businesses creating employment at the moment. Over the past 12 months, 8 out of 10 new jobs have been in the public sector. Okay, that's great. That's 80% of jobs are in the... Okay, well, in other words, the government is literally creating most of the jobs directly. Okay, that's worrying. Why am I only finding out about this now? That's really scary. UBS says public sector has accounted for around 80% of jobs growth over the past year. Damn. So the quarter, and remember, how's our budget going? How's the budget going? Are we in deficit? So the quarterly ABS data on employment growth by industry and sector shows that in the past 12 months, you've seen 310,000 jobs created in the public sector, while only 54,000 jobs created in the private sector. Oh boy. NAB Alan Oster agrees with Mr. Cacho. People are nervous, so they're not really employing people. Well, yes. Yeah, and that's what I've said in the past. You need to make it easier to fire people. I know that sounds bad, but for small, even I'd just say for small businesses, if you have under 20 staff, it should be easier for you to terminate people. Okay, and you say, oh, that's unfair, Florian, that's so mean. But as someone who's employed people and they've been terrible, the process to get rid of them is incredibly painful. So what does that do to you? It means you'll hire people on contract. It means you won't give people full-time jobs. It means you're less likely to give someone a chance. And I'm just speaking from personal experience here, because we've had a lot of, let's see, people who needed to learn what it was like working in a commercial environment. It's a bit different to fantasy world. So everyone's worried about margins. And so in that sort of environment, the private sector is saying, well, if I really desperately need to, I'll put someone on to do a new job for me. But beyond that, I'm going to be very careful, not only to not employ anybody, but not to pay them an increase in wages. And also another thing, going back here to this is supply and demand chart. You've got to remember now, this whole diagram changes because of this wonderful technology I'm using to broadcast to you. The internet. The market, the labor market, the supply of labor now has increased so much in the 21st century with high-speed internet, with access to people overseas. Like I'm working on doing a map of all of the flammable cladding in New South Wales. I'd like to get a video on that map for you later today. And I'm trying to figure out how to move text around in Excel. It's lots of fun. And I'm almost to the point where I can get a macro to do it and almost, manually do it. I could pay someone on $5 or $5 to do it manually online, sort of for me. I'd rather learn the skill of how to figure out how to do it, but that just shows you, you can outsource small tasks like this overseas. I've done it before. I had someone data mine gigabytes of data for me just for town planning. I wanted to get all the properties in Brisbane and put it in a database so I could find any development sites. It cost me $100 to do it overseas. If I had paid my staff to do that here in Australia, it would have cost a lot more. So you've got to understand the market is changing now as well. So back to this. So some people, rather than employing someone here, they'll employ someone overseas. They'll have a PA in the Philippines who will be really loyal. You'll pay them a quarter to a third of what you'd pay someone here. You wouldn't have to worry about super or any of that. That's all handled by the intermediate company. They love it. We love it. How can it be addressed? It's something. It's a difficult issue that I don't see being discussed much in any of these things. That the competition we're facing now in many of the service industries is on a global scale. So there is no doubt firms' profitability. There is no doubting firms' profitability. But Mr. Oster said firms are not spending that extra cash on wage growth and new hires. I think it's more about consumer being scared, the construction cycle going the wrong way, and businesses being very reluctant to hire or pay more money in a real tightening market. NAB's Alan Osterstead. This means the economy outside of the government sector actually is not growing at all. It is completely stalled. On some forecasts, it is going backwards. Well, yeah, it's set to go backwards. Yep. Yeah, I would agree with that. What happens with economies where the public sector, the government, is the one creating most of the employment? Can someone share examples of historical precedent in the comments, guys? Let me know what you think. I don't worry about the total economy. I do worry about the private sector. Eventually, the public sector is going to basically slow down, and what you get left with is the private sector. 55% of the economy, for example, is the private consumer, and then you add on construction and business investment and things like that. UBS economist Carlos Queijo said, this goes some way to explaining some of the confusion around the state of the economy at present. Jobs growth is strong because of the public sector, and economic growth is weak because the private sector is very soft, he observed. So I think that helps shed some light why currently what the ABA is calling a bit of a confusing set of data. But the Minister for Employment, Michelina Cash, has questioned the accuracy of ABS figures, showing employment growth has been overwhelming in the public sector over the past year. The government is focused on job creation, and these figures show that we are putting in place the right economic framework so that businesses out there are able to prosper, growth, and create more jobs for Australia. She said, where's your evidence to base that? Okay, consumer confidence in business is kind of disagreeing with you. Where's the evidence? I want to see the evidence. Recent claims by economists that most of the employment growth in Australia is in the public sector are based on their calculations from the ABS Labour Force Survey, which the ABS itself has cautioned against using as the correct measure of public service employment. But they're still making the claims based on that. I'd like to see counter evidence, not just criticism of that research. I'd like to see counter evidence to back up your arguments. It's a start. You've done a start there. It's good to see, but I'd like to see counter evidence. Show us the numbers. Signs that the private sector needs a bigger boost. The government and the Reserve Bank know the economy overall needs help. Dr. Lowe has repeatedly emphasized that the reason for cutting interest rates in June and July has been to help lower the unemployment rate and boost wages. At its core, today's decision was taken to support employment growth, Dr. Lowe said after the first 0.25% cut in June. The problem is there's little evidence the unemployment rate is on the way down. I think it's heading up. If anything, private sector forecasts show it is heading upwards. All of the leading indicators of the labour force that we look at, including NAB Business Survey, ANZ job ads, ABS job vacancies, all are pointing towards a slowing in employment growth. The latest SEEK employment report shows a decline of 7.5% in jobs advertised last month compared to June 2018. Job ads fell over the year. Wow. Well, there you are. Tasmania's up, guys. Good. Tasmania's up. You know why? It's probably because of the extra people they need to hire to inspect all the dams to make sure you're not putting, non-sterile fish in there. That's a reference to one of our viewers who can't put fish in his dam unless they're desexed. I'll do an episode on it. I can understand it, but it frustrates me. So, in addition to federal government tax cuts, infrastructure spending at both the state and federal level, and further cuts to the cash rates targeted by the Reserve Bank, Ms. Ault said businesses are crying out for genuine microeconomic and structural reform. I think, here's one idea. Change BAS, change GST payments, make it easier, make it faster. So less paperwork for government, for small business. Maybe, let small business off paying GST for a year. How about that? You can just keep it. That'd be good. 10%, that'd help everyone. I don't know how that'd go over though. I think one thing that would really shift business sentiment is if the government did get on with an agenda of reform and their businesses might feel like the broader environment was becoming more supportive to think about new investment projects, and we could go from here. That's a good point. That's a good point. But I don't think the public sector is going to be the savior for all of us. Let me know what you think in the comments, everyone. Please like, share, and subscribe. Ding the bell to see my daily updates, and I'll see you later. Bye for now.